PFL 3 from the Wintrust Arena this Friday night. We have the welterweights and the featherweights in the final first event, or first fight of the regular season, I'll say, for the season format. Obviously, 6 divisions, 3 different fight nights, 2 regular season bouts, and this is the final out of the 3 of the first fights, if you get what I mean. So 12 fights on this card. Again, the welterweight division and the featherweight division going tonight. Last week we did pretty well on the PFL card. I believe we went 9-3. I went 9-3 on both UFC and PFL last week, which I think is pretty solid. I do believe that we got 5 perfect calls on that PFL 2 card. We got one Marcelo Nunes to him by first round submission. We've got Ramazanov by decision. We got Primus by second round sub. I got Antonio Carlos Jr. by first round submission. We got Wilkinson by second round knockout. He actually got in the first. And then we got Kasanganay by first round knockout as well. Really could have gone. We went 8-3 on this card. Could have gone 9-2 if Sadabusi didn't get injured. The only bad reads we made were Neto and Brunel. It's gonna happen. But let's do it. PFL 3, and folks, if you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more MMA here on the channel. It's a week off for the UFC after UFC 300, but next week we'll be back for the main event in the UFC Apex. Mateus Nicolau versus Alex Perez. I can't believe that is a main event of a UFC fight night, but we got UFC 300. I'm not going to complain. No, I'm going to complain because it should not be in the Apex. Okay, let's start things off here at the PFL from the Wintrust Arena in Chicago, Illinois. We got our first fight here between Roman Debienne and Thad Jean in this fight. Taking Thad to win the fight. He's 6-0 professionally, 2 wins in PFL so far. The first one, the Challenger Series by unanimous decision back in 2023. Then a knockout win over Ali Omar in 2 minutes in the PFL on the PFL playoffs card last year. Thad hits hard. He hits very hard, and I am a little bit concerned because Debienne has been there before, and he's got Bellator experience with 2 wins in Bellator, the win over Kamara in 2023 by second round TKO, and then a first round knockout win over Nicolo Soli in his last one in 40 seconds. I am a little bit concerned, but I think Jean is the better striker. We've seen Debienne been finished on the feet before. You go back to 2021, got finished by first round knockout over an octagon against a guy who ended up going into the Contender Series, ended up losing to Rodrigues Dumas, which is Dumas the best UFC fighter? I don't know. But then Debienne was also finished on the feet back, I believe it was in that fight that he had in Luxembourg back in 2017 as well. So he has been chinned before. Yes, he is one of those guys that will eat one to throw one. But still, I think the silverback Thad Jean is better here. Again, I like what we've seen out of the PFL prospect so far. And you get a PFL prospect versus a Bellator prospect, and it is the alternate fight for the featherweight division, which again, I say this all the time. These fights mean something. Guys pull out in the PFL season all the time. There's 10 guys on the active season roster. If only one of those guys pull out, the winner of Debienne and Jean get to be in the PFL season. And don't forget, last year, Impa Kasanganay was an alternate. He won the first PFL card, ended up becoming the world champion, and look at him now. He, I would say, is the favorite to go back-to-back, and truly, I think, could potentially be a top 15 light heavyweight in the sport. I'm serious. Kasanganay looks so good in that Polizzi fight. I'm always going to be high on Kasanganay. I only wish the best for that guy going forward. But in this fight, I'm taking Thad Jean to win. I think he does get it done by first round knockout. Again, I think the hands are there. I've seen Debienne chin before. Again, I get Jean hasn't fought the best of competition. This is the step up. We'll see how he does against the French fighter in Debienne. I'm taking Jean, though, by first round knockout. So going to our next alternate fight. Sorry, that was in the welterweight division. If I misspoke, it's at 45. That's at 170. This is the 145 alternate fight. Tyler Diamond taking on Otto Rodrigues. If you remember the name Tyler Diamond, right, this is a former UFC name. Fought in the Ultimate Fighter on the 27th season, which was DC and Stipe. He wins his first fight in the Ultimate Fighter, then drops the next one, then gets a shot in the UFC on the finale card, losing to Bryce Mitchell by majority decision. UFC doesn't bring him in. He goes on to the LFA, wins a fight in the main event, then goes on to the PFL eventually, taking on Sung Bin Jo back in 2021. He wins it by unanimous decision, and then fights Brendan Loughnane after that and loses by majority decision. It was a close fight. Diamond fought closer than I think a lot of people anticipated him to, and then he came back in 2023 and lost a fight to Movlid Khabliev by second round arm triangle. Khabliev still not back in the PFL. He got hurt. That's why he was in the Braga fight. He's not going to be in this fight. Again, Khabliev still has not lost. He is undefeated, former PFL champ. Just want to see the guy fight. He won in 2021. It would look like he was on his way to winning in 2023. Again, just got injured, and he's not going to be here in 2024 either. So again, Tyler Diamond comes back and he takes on Otto Rodrigues, a guy who I think is going to beat him. I think Rodrigues will win this one by decision. I think the grappling again is going to be huge in this fight. That's what Rodrigues truly does do. He's a primary grappler, and Diamond's more of the striker. You look at what Rodrigues has done. He's coming off a win over Brian Moore by second round arm triangle choke in September of last year in Bellator 299. That's his only fight in Bellator before that, fighting in LFA, picking up a big win by unanimous decision in a fight that he was an underdog in against Carlos Augusto da Silva, winning it by decision in the co-main event over in Brazil. Again, and the guy just gets it done on the ground, right? A lot of big wins with his grappling. He's the former Jungle Fight featherweight champion, which is one of the better regionals over in Brazil. The one knock on Rodrigues is that he's 36 years old, so it's now kind of make or break time, and he is an alternate in this, but I do think he's able to beat Team Alpha Male Zone and Tyler Diamond. Again, where Rodrigues I think is better is just truly on the ground. I believe Tyler Diamond was a college wrestler, if I'm not mistaken. I believe, it was at North Dakota State, I think. But still, in terms of jiu-jitsu, that's where Rodrigues is going to get this one done. Diamond is the better striker, and he might be better in spots in terms of wrestling, but in an all-around grappling match, I'm going to take Otto Rodrigues. I think Rodrigues is able to get it down. I think he is able to control Diamond. I'm going to take Rodrigues by unanimous decision. Starting things off here in the welterweight division for the season format here, we've got Don Madge taking on Brennan Ward. Originally supposed to be the alternate fight, I believe this was supposed to be the alternate fight because I think Zach Jusula and Luka Postlet was supposed to be the actual fight in the 170 season. This was supposed to be the alternate fight, and that's how we got Debienne and Jean. But here we go. Madge and Brennan Ward get a spot in the PFL season. And matchup-wise, because both these guys weren't originally supposed to be in the season, matchup-wise, these guys might not be the best at the 10, but it gives one of these guys a chance to pick up a lot of points. And that's where I think Brennan Ward is actually going to get 6 here. I'm not saying Brennan Ward is the best guy in the welterweight division, but there's a very good chance he ends up in first place on the table because of the win that he might be able to get here against Don Madge. I think Ward is better. I'm not all that impressed with Don Madge. He got knocked out in the first round 2022 against Hoosh Manfio. He's not fought since. So it's been 2 years. It's going to be, math. 365 plus 365 is... this is 729. I believe it's 70. Yeah, it's gonna be 729 days since Don Madge last fought when he fights Brennan Ward from when he lost to Hoosh Manfio back in 2022. And I get it. Hoosh Manfio, former PFL champion. Didn't win the season in 2022 though, but still beat Don Madge in the first fight in 2022. He's the 2021 champion. Manfio is no longer with the PFL because of that Natan Schultz fight. But anyways, again, Madge comes in the PFL, he loses by third round TKO. Manfio gets him. He has not fought since. I think this is a very good opportunity for Brennan Ward here. I think Ward is going to throw something hard, and he's going to connect, and he's going to knock Madge out, right? Ward is a long-time Bellator veteran. He's had 19 fights in Bellator. His first Bellator fight came back in 2012 at Bellator 81. Who was on this card? Marcin Held won in the main event. Right, but again, the guy's been fighting in Bellator for a very long time. He fought in Bellator 89 over on Spike TV. He's been fighting with the promotion for a very long time. Now he makes the move over to PFL. And I know he lost his last fight to Logan Storley in a main event. It's going to happen, dude. Storley's on this card too. Storley did what he's supposed to do. He got Brennan Ward down. He was able to finish him on the ground. But what did Ward do before that? A 3-5 winning streak against Brandon Bell, against Cassius Kane, against Sabah Hamasi. I get those aren't the best guys, but the Sabah Hamasi win does speak volumes. I think that's a style of fight he can fight against Don Madge. Madge will look to take him down. I think Ward's able to keep it standing. I think Ward is able to actually knock out Don Madge, and I can't believe I'm saying this. Brennan Ward, as you look at the table, goes into first place in the PFL welterweight division to start things off. Yes, Ward is going to get a quick 6. It's a huge opportunity for him. He might not be the most skilled fighter in this division, but if he can pick up 6 points, again, one first round knockout finish has more weight in the standings than 2 decision victories. And when you're looking ahead, I'm not saying this is going to happen with Logan Storley, but I'm saying hypothetically, if Storley gets 2 decisions and say Brennan Ward loses his next fight, they both have 6 points, Ward still gets in the playoffs over Logan Storley. I'm just saying as a hypothetical, it's a huge fight, and if Ward can really go out there and get a first round finish, my goodness, it's going to do, it's going to take him a long way this season. Even if he drops his next one, there's a very good chance he'll be in the postseason. Let's go into our next one here. Sticking in the welterweight division, we have got the former UFC name Laureano Staropoli taking on Murad Ramazanov in this fight. And for Murad, coming off of one championship, he is undefeated, coming off the no contest to Roberto Soldic, where it was an accidental groin strike, no contest, fight over. But for Ramazanov, again, undefeated run so far in one championship. He was 3-0 over there, and he's 11-0 as a professional. And again, really good grappler. He's able to get fights on the ground, use the sambo effectively, and really just outwork guys down there. He's taking on Staropoli in this one. We'll see if he's able to finish Staropoli. Laureano's coming off a win over Baba Bonju Najimbome. I believe that's how you pronounce that name. Probably was mistaken. On PFL Europe 3, that win does not mean anything. His opponent for Staropoli in Baba Bonju had lost 3 out of 4 going into that fight, and Staropoli did what he was supposed to do and pummeled his face in. Now, for Staropoli, again, he looked good outside of the UFC, right? He comes into the UFC, wins his first 2 fights, beats Hector Aldana, beats Thiago Alves in a pay-per-view in Brazil. Then loses to Muslim Salikov, loses to Tim Means, loses to Roman Dolidze, and this is the fight where you're like, he lost to Jamie Pickett. Yeah, he lost a fight to Jamie Pickett by unanimous decision on the Costa Vittori card in the Apex. Probably my best picked UFC card maybe ever. I've had some good ones. That one, I basically got every single fight. Just a random tidbit. Anyways, for Staropoli after that, he went on to Aries, won 3 straight fights, and now he's here in the PFL. I just think this is such a tough fight for him. I think Staropoli, who is a very tough guy to finish and a guy who's only been finished once, all the way back in his 3rd professional fight in 2013, will be able to go the distance against Murad Ramazanov here in this one. I do think it's going to go the distance, but I do think it's going to be a pretty dominant performance. It's either going to be a decision or a late finish for Murad in this fight. I just think the overwhelming pressure and the all-around game of him is going to make it tough on Staropoli to win this one. I'm not overly impressed with Staropoli still. I get he went to Aries and won 3 straight fights, and he did win a fight in the PFL, but look at the quality of those wins. They're not the greatest. And for Ramazanov, I get it. He's fighting in one championship, and some of those guys aren't the greatest, but still, they are tough names that he's been fighting. It was a shame that the Soldic fight didn't actually happen because it was just a no contest. But still, I like Ramazanov even with the layoff of over a year. I think he's able to go out there and just outpace Staropoli. Give me Ramazanov to win the fight by decision. And then as we check the table, okay, so Laureano Staropoli joins Don Madge on the loser side of things. And then on the left, of course, you got Brendan Ward in first place, and then Murad in second with 3 points. Let's now shift our attention to the featherweight division. Interesting fight here between Timur Khizriev and Brett Johns. And Khizriev might be the dark horse in this division. Like a guy that no one's talking about, who is undefeated, never lost a fight, who, I'll be honest, the PFL style does not really favor Timur, but if he's able to pick up 2 decision victories, which is likely what he will do, he will still likely make the playoffs, I think, at 145 pounds. It's very rare guys go 2-0 and miss the playoffs. It's very rare, but it can happen. He's taking on a tough opponent, though. Don't get me wrong. Brett Johns is tough, right? Johns is very tough. This is a guy who went from Bellator to PFL before the merger happened or before the buyout happened. I think that was before the buyout. Because I believe he was booked in PFL Europe before the Bellator buyout happened. Yeah, he won a fight by 3rd round TKO against a guy who's not very good. He beat an 11-8 guy in his first fight in the PFL. But again, they did that for a reason. They just wanted to get Brett Johns a victory. His Bellator run was all right. He went 2-1. It was halted early because he lost to Danny Sabatello, but Sabatello will beat some of these guys. He's a really good wrestler, and it just happens. He won back-to-back fights over Khizriev Kakharov, and then he beat Jordan Winsky in his last fight in Bellator by unanimous decision. Obviously, Johns in the UFC run too, went 5-2. The only losses, Aljamain Sterling and Pedro Munoz. Those are not bad losses at all. He left the UFC after beating Montel Jackson. And Montel Jackson's a guy who's going to fight Said Nurmagomedov in a fight that people think Montel Jackson has a legitimate chance of winning over in Saudi Arabia. That's a fun fight. I might take Montel Jackson to beat Said in that fight. I'm excited for it. But again, Brett Johns beat Montel Jackson. However, Timur Khizriev, very good wrestler, fighting out of Makhachkala, Russia. It's the other camp over in Dagestan. Again, he's going to bring that pace. He's going to bring that pace, and it's going to be tough. And Khizriev's been fighting good guys in Bellator too, right? He beat Weichel. I know Weichel's at the end of his run, but still, he beat Weichel, beat Richie Smolin, and beat another guy who's in this season, Justin Gonzales. This is an incredibly tough fight for Brett Johns because of the style Khizriev is going to bring. I think Khizriev's going to pressure him a lot. Again, nobody's beat him before. I would say potentially he is the favorite in the 145-pound division. I know Loughane's back. I get that some of the Bellator guys are coming too. I know Braga's returning and Bubba Jenkins is here too, but still, I really like Khizriev in this season. I wouldn't be opposed to him winning the entire thing. If you had to make a pick right now, Khizriev's going to win this one by decision. I think he's going to outwork Brett Johnson. As you look at the table, of course, nothing much going on yet. But Brett Johns, I think, is a very tough guy. And I think, there's a chance he might be able to get a finish in his second fight in the PFL season that might push him to that top 4. But for now, Khizriev wins. He gets the decision. He gets 3 points. And he moves on to the winner's side of things, at least for now. Let's go now and stay in the featherweight division. We've got Adam Borics taking on Enrique Barzola. So 2 Bellator guys going at it here. I think Borics does win. I think so, right? Barzola is 27-2, right? The Bellator run 4-2 so far. Losses to Magomed Magomedov and Juan Archuleta, which they aren't bad losses, right? Archuleta was the rising bantamweight champion before he lost to Kai Ascura. And then Magomed Magomedov is going to be fighting for the championship again, even though I don't think he should be fighting for the championship, but they need someone to fight Patchy Mix. They're just going to give Magomedov the chance. But Barzola has been good, right? He's been using that ground game effectively. He's been really grounding guys. And the stand-up game is good too, right? So like you look at the Darren Caldwell win, he finishes him on the ground in the 3rd round, beats Nikita Milikov in that wild card fight for the Grand Prix, loses in the Grand Prix to Magomed Magomedov in the 4th round, loses to Archuleta, beats Eric Perez in a fight that Barzola missed weight in, and then beat Jalen Bates after that by unanimous decision. Bates, an undefeated prospect coming from Bellator, who's coming off a win over Jornal Lugo. So it's a good win for Barzola coming into the season. I just think Adam Borics is better. I know Borics is coming off that loss to Patricio Pitbull, where, it happens. I think Pitbull has still shown that he is still solid, right? I mean, beating Jeremy Kennedy, I think Pitbull is going to be in charge of that division at least for a little bit longer, right? But Borics is coming off the win over Brunel. I know Brunel just lost, so beats Jeremy Kennedy, who just fought for the championship, beat Eric Sanchez. I think Adam Borics is legitimately the number 2 in the Bellator featherweight division. I think he is. I think he is the guy behind Patricio Pitbull. I just don't think he can get over the hump right now, right? I think Borics beats a lot of these guys in the Bellator featherweight division. I know about Khizriev. I think Khizriev, again, hasn't fought someone at the level of Borics yet. And I think that those guys, if Bellator was still around, I think Borics and Khizriev would probably determine the next title challenger. But I think those guys might meet in the season. I think they might meet in the postseason. I think these are 2 of the top guys that PFL does have in this. And again, featherweight's pretty stacked. Again, I've been talking about it, but Bubba Jenkins is going to be tough. Braga's coming back, and Loughnane, again, kind of got gifted the easiest fight in the division. So there's going to be tough guys. I think Borics just all around, though, does beat Barzola, whether it be on the feet and whether it be on the ground. I think Borics is just a better fighter. Take him out of Borics to win the fight by unanimous decision. As we look at the table, boom, again, there's a tie in first place between Borics and Khizriev, and then Barzola and Johns on the right side of the table, both with 0 points. Staying in the featherweight division again, this is your main card opener. Bubba Jenkins, my guy, taking on Kamaka III. So apologies if this is a little bit biased. I like Bubba Jenkins. I've been a Bubba Jenkins fan for a while, since he came in and really just, upset Lance Palmer in his first fight. I always liked Bubba. Again, fought in Bellator a while ago, then went overseas to Russia and Brave and won a couple fights, then came in and upset Lance Palmer in his first fight in 2021, beat Bobby Moffitt, got into the playoffs, but then just lost to Chris Wade in the postseason. He avenged that loss eventually. But yeah, Bubba Jenkins is back for another season here. I think we're going to see a pretty dominant performance for Jenkins in this fight. I think he's way better than Kai Kamaka. I really think so. I know Kamaka's 6-1 in Bellator, don't get me wrong. 1 loss to Justin Gonzales in a tough fight. The thing is, Kamaka hasn't been fighting the best guys. He barely got by Henry Corrales, who's old at this point. He beat Adley Edwards by unanimous decision. I don't think the highest of him. Kevin Boehm, he beat him by 3rd round TKO. He beat John DeJesus. He, lost to Justin Gonzales, right? He's 6-1 in Bellator overall, but in the second run, he's 4-1 there. He fought in Bellator a while ago. He went 2-0. Of course, we can talk about Kamaka's UFC run, where, yeah, did he get screwed? Probably, right? He should have won the TJ Brown fight. He should have won the Danny Chavez fight. It's fine, right? The Tony Kelly fight, he won, and it was a good fight back at UFC 252. However, I think there's a big discrepancy on the ground in this fight. I think Bubba Jenkins is that much better than Kai Kamaka on the ground. I think Bubba Jenkins is better than a lot of these guys on the ground. I just think he ran into the wrong guy in the playoffs last year. Pinedo's good. Jesus Pinedo is good. And don't forget, Jesus Pinedo missed weight in the playoff fight. I will always talk about this. Why should a guy who missed weight into a postseason fight still fight? Let me get this straight. You deduct points from guys in the regular season if they miss weight, like they did to Daniel James when he just won his last fight against Marcelo Goma in the rematch. You give him minus points. That's fair. But once they get to the postseason, and they've done this before, Larissa Pacheco 2 years ago, I believe 2 or 3 years ago, didn't fight in the playoffs because she missed weight. I believe, oh God, she was supposed to fight Taylor Gordano. Gordano was the 4 seed, Pacheco was the 1. Instead, Pacheco missed weight, so I believe it was Marina Moraes, I think her name was, fought Taylor Gordano instead. Gordano beat Moraes, and then, of course, Kayla Harrison beat Gordano in the finals. That's how we didn't get the Pacheco and Kayla Harrison fight in 2021, I do believe. So why is Jesus Pinedo still fighting in the season and fighting in the playoffs against Bubba Jenkins, who did have to make weight? Pinedo didn't have to. He was able to rehydrate. He was able to, oh, okay, I missed by half a pound. I'm just not going to try to cut anymore. It's ridiculous. Bubba Jenkins should have fought the alternate, which would have been the 5 seed was already Chris Wade, so it would have been the 6th seed. It should have been Brenton Loughnane, and now, again, I don't think Loughnane wanted to fight, but still, I don't know why the PFL didn't have alternates ready like they've had in the past just to weigh in, just in case someone misses weight. That's my little tangent about that. I'm still pissed that Bubba Jenkins lost that fight because he had to fight a guy who couldn't make weight. That's ridiculous, right? I know, again, Pinedo made weight in the Braga fight. Fair play to him. He shouldn't have been in that spot in the first place. It probably should have been Bubba Jenkins instead. Again, if Pinedo missed weight, I would shut up about this, but he didn't make weight. So I have a gripe with a guy who doesn't make weight in the playoffs, that this should be considered a championship fight. Make weight, and it's just ridiculous, right? Bubba Jenkins last year was good in the PFL, right? He beats Chris Wade in the first fight, and then he beats Sung Bing Jo by submission in the first round. He got to the championship fight in 2022, got TKO'd by Brenton Loughnane in the 4th round. Gonna happen to you, right? He beat Hyoji Kudo in the playoffs. Kudo probably shouldn't have been in that spot. Kudo just got the right guy at the right time. He beat Alejandro Flores, and boom, again, he got in the playoffs. Kudo ended his PFL run losing 4 out of 5 fights, but he made the playoffs because he got 1 first-round knockout. That's what I'm talking about with Brennan Ward, right? That's how the PFL works. However, again, I think Bubba Jenkins' wrestling is just going to be too much for Kamaka in this fight. Again, you know what Jenkins brings. He's a pretty aggressive wrestler who sets a pace, and he's always there. He's always there. I get Kamaka can wrestle some, but still, I just think Jenkins is so much better down there. I truly think so. Kamaka's best pathway to victory is through the striking, but I just think Jenkins gets him down. I think Jenkins gets a hold of his neck. I think this is going to be a fight like what we've seen with Jenkins when he's able to go out there and get quick finishes. Hyoji Kudo, Sun Bing Jo. I think this is going to be a 2nd-round sub for Bubba Jenkins. I think he solidifies himself in the postseason. Well, not yet, but still, I think he's going to, put himself in first place in the standings. I'm going to take the bad man, Bubba Jenkins. 5 points, first place in the standings with a 2nd-round submission. We will see if that stands because, again, Pedro Carvalho is fighting Brenton Loughnane. We'll get to that later, but Bubba Jenkins will be in first. I think for now, give him 5 points in the featherweight division. As we now move on back to welterweight, it is a rematch. Again, I don't know why PFL keeps doing this. We got this with Goldman James. We got this with Carmouche and Velasquez. We're getting another Bellator rematch. Gochi Yamauchi taking on Neiman Gracie. Now, I don't think Neiman Gracie is very good. I'm going to put it out there. I think a lot of people get that at this point, right? I think a lot of people think Neiman Gracie is not that guy anymore, right? His best moment was when he heel hooked John Fitch, and you're thinking, oh, okay, maybe this guy's legit. Then he lost to Jason Jackson. He beat Mark Lemminger, and then he lost back-to-back to Storley and Yamauchi. Neiman Gracie can't strike. And Yamauchi, in no sense of the imagination, is known for his striking. But Yamauchi put Gracie down and finished him. What's to say it's not going to happen again? Yamauchi's been putting together the striking as he's moved on in his career. I get he's not fought in a year. He last fought when he had the leg kick loss to Michael Venom Page. I was at that fight in San Jose. It happens. Again, it was a year ago, right? But before that, 3 straight wins over Chris Gonzales, one by knockout, beat Levant Chokely before that by first-round sub, and then TKO'd Neiman Gracie in the 2nd round in the main event. I believe, was that in Sioux Falls, South Dakota? I think it was. I think that was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Yeah, it was. Right? Yamauchi is just better than Neiman Gracie. And on the ground, we'll see. We'll see if we do see more of an extended look at that fight on the ground. I don't think we get there. I think Yamauchi is just going to melt him. Neiman Gracie's a sitting duck on the feet. It's that simple. He's not a good striker. Yamauchi will be able to beat him up there. I'm pretty confident in this one. Again, I'm taking the guy who won the first fight, and it just happened, a year and a half ago? I don't think this is that controversial of a pick. I think Yamauchi wins. I just would like to see the PFL make new matchups and not repeat the same Bellator ones, but it's fine. Again, I've spoken at this at length. Why doesn't the PFL have a system or at least you can make a show out of it? You could do a drawing for who's going to fight each other. It's just, this random stuff is just kind of dumb. And again, they get the guys the fights they want. Brenton Loughnane is fighting Pedro Carvalho. Carvalho is the worst guy in the featherweight division. Loughnane should dust him. We're going to talk about that later. But again, Yamauchi, Gracie, I think Yamauchi wins. I actually think he's going to get 6 points. So Yamauchi wins. I don't think he's going to get it as fast as Brennan Ward gets it. So again, I can't believe I'm saying this. Brennan Ward's in first place, and Gochi Yamauchi's in second with 6 points, and Ramazanov is in third with 3 points. Look at the other side again, Gracie, Staropoli, Madge, all with 0 points. But again, one first-round finish could get you in the playoffs. None of those guys are really out of it. That's kind of how they get these guys to stay in it if they lose their first fight. Okay, let's move on now. Back to the featherweight division. We have got Gabriel Braga taking on Justin Gonzales. So Braga was the runner-up last season. And now this is really the test for me to see how good Braga is. I don't think Braga beat Chris Wade, I'll be honest. I thought Wade got that decision very close. Again, I think a lot of people thought Braga won. I actually scored it for Wade. I think he got it. I don't know. It's close. Maybe it's because I picked Wade and I was a little bit biased in that fight. I don't know how good Braga truly is. I believe I picked Braga to beat Pinedo in the finals, just because, again, Braga won the first fight. Even though the first fight was incredibly close, I did take Braga to win. But I do question how good he truly is. I do. Because he beat an old Marlon Moraes who shouldn't have been there. He, beat Pinedo by split decision, and he barely beat Chris Wade, and then he lost by TKO to Pinedo in the final, right? He was supposed to fight. I would have liked to see Braga fight in that PFL Bellator card, because I would have got to see how good he is, compare some of these Bellator guys, right? Originally supposed to be Aaron Pico. Well, Braga got rebooked to the Pitbull fight against Patricio Pitbull. Well, Braga had to withdraw, so nobody fought Pitbull, and then Pico ended up just fighting Henry Corrales. So, I don't know, and Pico's a guy I wanted to see in the season, too. I thought that'd be pretty cool. Braga against Justin Gonzales. And again, we will see truly how good he is, because Gonzales has beat guys, but Gonzales is also coming off back-to-back losses. Lost to Madge, lost to Khizriev. I get both those guys are good, and both those guys are fighting in these PFL seasons. And Gonzales, again, the wins. Taiwan Claxton, lost to Pico, beat Kai Kamaka, and beat Andrew Fisher. Guys he's supposed to beat. I get Kamaka, again, it's a close fight against a tough opponent. I think Braga is just kind of better, though, if I'm being honest. I think Braga is the better stand-up guy in this fight. And I don't think that's too controversial of an opinion to take. I think Braga does go out there and outstrike Justin Gonzales, and I think Braga does win. Again, I want to see this fight, though, because, again, I think we'll get a very good gauge on how good Braga truly is. Because, again, we spoke about it earlier. Again, he's fighting a lot of guys with a bunch of question marks surrounding them, and now you get an established Bellator guy who's been there and, has had 6 fights under that banner. So, again, I'm excited to see what Braga we get. And don't forget, Braga is only 25. He's only going to keep getting better. This is a guy who can be around for a long time in the PFL, so keep that in mind as well. I think Braga does win. He gets it done by decision. So we look back at the board here. Again, Braga and Khizriev and Borics are all tied with 3 points. And again, Bubba Jenkins currently in first place with 5, and Gonzales joins the losers on the right side of the table. Going back to welterweight here, Logan Storley, the former Bellator interim welterweight champion, takes on Shamil Musaev. Musaev is undefeated at 16-0-1. Can he beat one Logan Storley? I think it's possible. Musaev hasn't fought the best of guys. Originally booked against Mateusz Gamrot at one point, which I think would have been really interesting because Musaev used to fight at 155, so that's where that fight would have been. He's moved up to 170 since that Gamrot booking, even though, again, he never got the rematch against Gamrot, because I believe Gamrot went right to the UFC after he won that fight card. Yeah, he did. And again, Gamrot, top guy, probably going to fight Tsarukyan, where the winner is going to get a shot at the belt, right? But for Musaev, again, after the Gamrot fight got canceled, he wins one by decision, has a majority draw, then beats Alexei Kuchenko by knockout in the first round with the spinning back kick. It looks good. It does. Don't get me wrong. Kuchenko, though, is just, he's 39 years old. He did just beat Glapes and Tebow. I didn't know that fight happened. He beat Glapes and Tebow by decision, but this guy was never the best in the PFL, nor was he the best in the UFC, right? He lost to Sadie Boussi in the PFL, where he's a favorite in that fight. Lost to 2 good guys in the UFC in Gilbert Burns and Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos, and beat Thiago Alves and Yushin Okami, who were both at the ends of their runs. I didn't know I totally forgot Yushin Okami fought Kuchenko, I'll be honest. Was that his last UFC fight? It better have been. I think. Yeah, it was. Yeah, now he's fighting a shoot, though. He just won his last fight. Anyways, how old is Okami? Sorry, Okami's 42, my goodness. Anyways, right? So, like, Musaev last win, yeah, looks good on paper, but how good is Kuchenko really? I think he's going to have trouble with the wrestling game of Storley, right? Musaev is mostly a striker. He's going to try to stand with you. He's going to try to, again, throw a lot of stuff. Really good kickboxer. He's going to throw a bunch of spinning attacks, throws a spinning back fist, throws a spinning back kick, throws, just throws a lot of kicks in general, right? He's going to mix it up with the body kicks and with the head kicks as well, and the leg kicks too, which I do think could be a little bit interesting in a fight with Storley, because Storley is not the best striker. However, none of that kickboxing stuff's going to matter when Storley has him on his back. And I do think Logan Storley wins this one. He's got 2 losses in Bellator. One is to Yaroslav Amosov, and the other is to Yaroslav Amosov. They are both to Amosov. He has not lost to anybody ever other than the former champion Yaroslav Amosov. Now, if I'm Storley, I don't even know if I fight in this season, because if he goes back to Bellator, he's 1 fight away from fighting Jason Jackson for the belt. Jason Jackson's going to be fighting Kamaka over in Ireland, but again, put Logan Storley on that same card, have him fight someone else, have him fight I don't know. I don't even know who's left, though, because a lot of those guys went to the season. You could have just pulled Yamauchi from the season, seriously. You could have just pulled Yamauchi from the season and made Logan Storley and Yamauchi for the #1 contender for the Bellator Welterweight Championship. But now Storley's going to go to the season, which I think is cool, right? I think he does beat Shamil Musaev just matchup-wise. I think skill for skill on the ground, Storley's way better. I just think he matches up well with Musaev, a guy who is going to throw kicks. I think Storley's probably going to be able to catch a kick, bring him to the ground, and it's just going to be rinse and repeat the entire night. I think Storley wins by decision, and I think Storley does get in here to the table. He's going to slide into 4th right now, but he's going to be tied with Ramazanov with 3 points. Musaev joins the losers on the right side of the bracket. But yeah, I think we're going to see a typical Logan Storley performance. A lot of good wrestling. He's going to do some work on top, maybe get a finish late, but I think Storley wins it by unanimous decision. Going now to our final fight in the featherweight division and our co-main event, and arguably probably should be the main event, Brendan Loughnane taking on Pedro Carvalho. And I'm surprised it's not the main event because the PFL loves Brendan Loughnane. He's their guy. He's going to absolutely destroy Pedro Carvalho. This is not going to be close. This is a first round knockout. This is going to be reminiscent of Patricio Pitbull versus Pedro Carvalho. I will never forget when they were drawing the fight, and this was cool, when Bellator would draw who would fight who in the Grand Prix. You get to pick your opponent, basically. Pitbull got first pick. He said, I want #1 easy fight. I want Pedro Carvalho. That's how I'll always remember Pedro Carvalho from. I'm sorry. But he beats Carvalho in a fight that shouldn't have happened. He knocked him out in the first round. It's ridiculous. It was 1 versus 8 in the Grand Prix, and it was not a competitive fight. Carvalho then loses to J.J. Wilson in his next fight. He loses the fight by 2nd round TKO, right? Wilson was supposed to fight Adam Piccolotti. He had to withdraw. That's unfortunate. I wanted to see J.J. Wilson get a chance in the lightweight division. Unfortunately, again, didn't happen. Instead, Elvin Espinoza got to fill in for Piccolotti. Interesting. I didn't think Espinoza was going to win his initial fight. I picked him to beat Piccolotti, and it happened for us. We'll take it. But anyways, Carvalho, right, beats Daniel Weichel, who's old. He lost to Piotr Nedilski by a split decision. He beats Mads Burnell, which is just so weird. He was a big underdog in that fight. He somehow beat Mads Burnell. But then he dropped back to that fight to Jeremy Kennedy and Aaron Pico. He got knocked down the first round by Pico. Again, Loughnane should be a -1,000 favorite. I understand he lost to Jesus Pinedo. I don't care. That's not relevant in this fight. Pedro Carvalho, how does he beat Brendan Loughnane? He's not outstriking him for 15 minutes. He's not going to knock him out. Loughnane is going to destroy Pedro Carvalho. And I am not a big Loughnane guy at all. I picked Bubba Jenkins to beat him in the playoffs, or in the championship. I have picked against Brendan Loughnane so many times. I picked Chris Wade to beat the guy. I picked Hobby Love to beat him. Well, he did beat him, but still, right? Like, I have never been the biggest on Loughnane, but they know what they're doing. They're getting Loughnane a victory. They gave him number 8, really, or they gave him number 10 in Carvalho, and he's going to absolutely destroy him. First round knockout for Loughnane. He keeps the distance, and he absolutely pummels Pedro Carvalho. It's not competitive. Carvalho will not be able to take him down, and then he's a sitting duck. Brendan Loughnane does the job, and there you go. Brendan Loughnane jumps right into first place here in the PFL table. He's going to be in first with 6 points. Bubba Jenkins in second with 5. Khizriev, Borics, and Braga, though, all in a 3-way tie for that 3 through 5 spot. So, again, we'll see how this plays out. Loughnane and Jenkins are in the best potential spot here. But again, we'll see. Anyone is basically still alive in this weight class, especially with these guys with just 3 points. Let's go on to our main event here. It's an interesting main event. I'm surprised they did give this one the main event spot, but it's Andrei Koreshkov taking on Magomed Umlatov. I wish Umlatov fought more. Again, Umlatov has been in 2 positions back-to-back years where he could have potentially been the PFL champion. And Umlatov and Magomed Karamov was supposed to be such a good fight that would have happened. I was so pumped for it. But again, Umlatov pulled out, and here we are. Now, Magomed Karamov's injured, so that's why he's not in the season, I do believe, because he's supposed to fight Jason Jackson over in Saudi Arabia. Fight didn't happen. And Magomed Karamov has had 40 professional fights. He's 34-6. It's crazy, right? One that, seriously, he might be the PFL GOAT right now. If OAM, but OAM's done fighting. Like, Magomed Karamov's 16-1 in the PFL. He has 1 loss to Ray Cooper III, and that's it. I wouldn't be surprised if they do book Magomed Karamov and Ray Cooper a trilogy fight. Just on one of the playoff cards this year. I wouldn't be surprised. Or one of the super fight cards. I think that's probably what they'll do, just to get Magomed Karamov back in there by the end of the year. But again, Magomed Karamov's a monster. Probably still would have lost to Jason Jackson though, but still. Umlatov is supposed to fight Magomed Karamov, and Umlatov withdraws. I don't know why he withdrew from the fight. I really don't. But I would have loved to seen it, because it's 2 Russian, good Russian welterweights going at it. I get they're not from the same camp, right? Magomed Karamov's from Makhachev and Umlatov's fighting out of ATT, but still, I would have loved to see it. And again, for Umlatov, he's supposed to be in that same playoff spot in 2022. He got gifted the Rory McDonald matchup in the playoffs. He's a huge favorite in that fight. Well, he pulls out. Visa issues. McDonald instead fights Delano Taylor. Delano Taylor gets to the championship, and Sadibou beats Delano Taylor to win the championship, right? Umlatov's been in positions back-to-back years where he should be fighting for the championship or fighting in the playoffs. It's unfortunate. And now he gets Andrei Koreshkov in this fight. And again, this is a Bellator veteran, right? Koreshkov was the champion back in 2016, right? He beats Benson Henderson, and he loses it right away to Douglas Lima. But he's just always been around, right? He's put together a pretty decent winning streak. 5 straight wins, 3 of those being in Bellator, the last one being a close split decision nod over Lorenz Larkin. But Koreshkov's feels like he's, I know he's only 33, but so many fights, man. He's been fighting for so long. He's only 1 year 1 year older than Umlatov. But just in terms of in-ring, just experience and age, he's just been in there for so much longer than Umlatov, and just the damage that he's taken in some of these big fights, because Koreshkov's been in so many big fights for Bellator, right? He had the first, he beats Douglas Lima. He beat Douglas Lima for the belt. He defends it against Benson Henderson, then loses in the rematch to Douglas Lima, has the trilogy against Lima, loses in a 5-round main event back in 2018, right? And like that in itself, that trilogy against Lima took a lot out of Koreshkov, but he comes back and he has not lost since the first Lorenz Larkin fight where he lost it by split decision. I just don't know if he's able to beat a dynamic welterweight in Magomed Umlatov, a guy who can really put it on you on the feet, who's got good takedown defense, who can, doesn't really go down there, but this guy is a dynamic striker who gives guys problems. I was surprised the Naib Lopez fight went the distance, but it's fine. Other than that one fight, he's ran through guys. Watch the way he's able to just decimate Delano Taylor. I like Umlatov a lot in this main event. I think he gets it done. Give me Magomed Umlatov. If he can just not pull out of a fight again, he's undefeated 14-0. Umlatov's going to be a problem. I have Umlatov winning by second round TKO. Look at the table. Umlatov puts himself in 3rd place. I think this PFL welterweight division is very interesting. I'll be honest with you. I think the guys we get in the playoffs will probably be the top 3 in Logan Storley. I think. Again, we'll see how things work, and I don't know what matchups are going to come out of this. And I don't think Brendan Ward's a top 4 guy in this. But the matchup against Don Madge favors a first-round finish, and if he gets that first-round finish, it's hard for him to drop out of the top 4. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. Right now, we'd have Ward versus Ramazanov and Umlatov versus Yamauchi. Again, though, Storley's tied for 4th place with 3. We can quickly look at the featherweight table as we sign off here. Again, right now we'd have Loughnane versus Borics and Khizriev versus Jenkins. But again, that can all change. Again, Braga still tied for that 3, 4, 5 spot as well. So don't really put anything into that. So, folks, that will do it for our, that'll do it for our PFL 3 predictions here on the channel. The PFL will be back. I believe PFL Europe's the next date we have for this. Yes, June 8th, PFL Europe over in England, and the regular season starts back up June 13th, June 21st, and June 28th with cards in Connecticut, Salt Lake City, and I don't know where the one on June 28th is. Hopefully they do the Bellator fans a solid and put it in San Jose. We will see. But yeah, I'll be back for the PFL season coming back, starting back up in June with both Europe and the regular season, and then of course Bellator. Ooh, when is Bellator's next card? Let me check real quick. When Bellator is running again, I think it is a while. Yeah, it's going to be Nurmagomedov Chablis, May 17th, over from Paris, France. That's that card. And of course, the UFC is running basically every single week from here on out. We've got Nicolau Perez, then we have got Pantoja Urseg, St. Louis with Luis Nascimento, Barbosa and Murphy, and then Memorial Day weekend, and then Makhachev Poirier. So 4 straight weeks of UFC after this, and again, PFL Bellator coming back later as well. So folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Give a thanks for watching, and Mamba forever.